doesn't really participate as much or as I remember. And he said something. I really don't remember what he said. I wish I remembered. He said something, and that made you laugh. That made you laugh, like that kind of like broke the ice. I'm like, oh, so like he does have a soft spot because
Mm.
you like your real laugh came out, and I was like, this cannot be the same teacher.
Welcome back to another episode of We're Still Dreaming, a Tito Dre Dreaming podcast. Today, I'm so excited to have another one of my founding original students, now adults, on the pod. We are here to reflect, to reminisce, to dream, and to imagine. Miriam Brito is a 21-year-old recent graduate from the University of Notre Dame, majoring in accounting. She returned back home to the south side of the city of Chicago and is currently working as a staff accountant at Jenner and Block. She is now working on getting her CPA license and continuing to embrace her interest in running. And her long term goal is to be part of a nonprofit that helps with the academic development of students around the city of Chicago. To me, Miriam Brito has always been our fighter, whether it was staying after school, asking the good questions, and or asking for feedback. Miriam always did things to better herself. Not only have I had the opportunity to teach her and to have her in my homeroom twice, she was also as scrappy at sports as she is in the classroom. I've always known Miriam to be that girl, and I'm so excited to have her on. Please welcome Miriam Brito. Yay!
Yay. Thank you for the
Welcome.
nice introduction.
Of course. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, before we go ahead and get started and talking about your past, present, and future, how are you feeling spiritually, mentally, emotionally? How are you feeling right now?
To start off the bat, physically, I'm still recovering from a very bad fever
Right.
last week, excuse me.
Yeah.
But I'm much better now, but right now it sounds like I have a frog in my throat, but
Yeah.
overall, I'm doing well. Spiritually, I've been feeling very well.
Good.
A lot of strong emotions the past month, but very nice, strong emotions.
Yeah.
And mentally, I feel good. I feel the long nights have caught up to me a bit,
Yeah.
but overall, I feel like I got my rest back.
Yes.
And yes, and right now I'm like working full time now, which is nice, but at the same time, like I'm already an adult,
Yes.
having to pay bills and having to take on responsibility.
Yeah.
So
I was gonna say too, like during the last month, did you feel like there was a lot of work going on trying to finish up and wrap up your final year in college?
there was a lot, yes. And not even just that. It was also the process of like moving out.
Mm,
That's another like a mental toll that takes out a lot. I feel like that's like a very big um a big pro for those that commute to school,
yeah.
that they don't have to deal with moving out their stuff or having to donate or having to go through that process of what's going back home or what's going to go to
Right.
both. So
Yeah, I was gonna say that usually at the end of a long semester, like for me, especially after a long school year or something, I usually get sick at the end. And so when you told me that you were
yes.
sick, I was like, oh, Miriam's tired. She
Yes.
she needs that rest. She needs that rest.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That's so awesome. I'm so proud of you with all of the things that you're doing. I know we talked a little bit, and we've also met up for a dinner when you were doing an internship here in New York City. And so I'm just really excited to hear what's been going on since then. But we're going to start with a little bit of the past. I always ask this question first because the first impressions question, because everybody has a different response to how they responded. And so I know we met in fifth grade when you first came. You were one of my founding students. Tell me what were your first impressions, and what stories or things can you think about from the first impressions in the first meeting that we had when you came in fifth grade in 2013?
Yep. Sounds good. Before I start, I to mention my dog. She's like right down the hall,
Okay.
um, so she's part of the audience too, I
Yes.
guess. So in fifth grade, a little bit more of a backstory. So I was originally in Shields
Yep.
and I was in the process of going to the new building,
Yep.
but at the time I was a very average student. I would always get like C's, B's.
Mm,
I would rarely get an A. Um, and so my parents decided to switch over to a different school to hopefully have like a better change.
yep.
And I feel that a lot of students have mentioned that it's very lottery based. So my parents, I don't know what was the sign up date or the last sign up
Yep.
date for Uno Bryant Park. So we originally went to like the last day, and we went to Tamayo, and basically I got the very last spot.
Oh, wow.
Yes, yes, yes. So I was like this close not going to Bryant Park for a split second, but I guess my seat was saved there. So on the actual first day of school, I remember it was extremely hot. Um, and when my mom walked me over to like, to like the seating because they were going to do like a small ceremony,
Yep.
due to like the first year of like the first day. I remember seeing you and you just stare at me and you just pull up your sign and just
Uh,
I don't remember you smiling at me. I feel like I was like maybe he's tired and overwhelmed by the heat as well,
yeah.
but I just remember you just giving me a very blank stare like and I was like in my head I was like, man, um this is gonna be a long year because I could tell you were gonna like set the tone right away. Um, I didn't know you were gonna be like friendly or even funny. So I was like, man, like, was this even a good idea to like transfer over? Um, so that was like my first impression. I think furthermore, I feel like you were you were much more stricter on like the bad kids
Hmm.
essentially, and essentially like over time I saw like your soft spots, and I
Uh,
saw that you really enjoyed teaching because I really enjoyed like the visuals you put out around your classroom.
yeah. It's so funny because I've been waiting for that interpretation because actually I thought I was mean in the beginning. I tell everybody in my first year I thought I was mean in the beginning, and it was funny because everyone before you, even Tovar, I'm so glad that you're like episode 6, but Tovar said I was nice on the first day of
Oh,
school, but he was the year after, like
hmm.
year two. And in the first year, everyone who was in that first year, Shanti, Ileana, Carlos, they all said, "Oh, he was really nice," and I was like, "Me in the beginning?" But I see like how see people have different perceptions of like how that is. Now, I have to bring this up because your face is a visual in my head, you and Evelyn. There's a visual in my head for this. Do you remember Halloween? No?
No,
Okay,
no.
so actually, and you, Evelyn, and Ileana were the visual for my head for this. So I know everybody on the podcast probably you're hearing this story for like the fourth time, but there at Halloween, the day before Halloween, remember you guys were gonna dress up and we were gonna have a party, and it was so loud at dismissal, and I said, "Well, there's no party tomorrow," and you specifically, you, Arlie, Evelyn, and Ileana, just sobbing. Like I have a visual of it in my head because as a first year teacher, you're like, oh no, like they're so little. And obviously, I gave the party the day after everyone. Like I did. I just was like a very unexperienced first year teacher. And I was like, how do I get them to stop screaming or whatever at the end of that? And you guys were sobbing. Evelyn remembers, I always bring it up every time I see Evelyn because I see your faces every time I think about it. I never did that again, because I was like, oh my gosh, that really broke my heart that they got really, sad. But you don't remember that.
No, I specifically remember one time I was sitting next to like the students that would talk a lot,
Yes.
and one morning, you literally, um called the person next to me to like walk out and come back to like
Yes.
basically shut up. And you also called me out. And so I felt so offended because I
Yeah.
wasn't really doing anything.
Right.
And I did felt like I wanted to cry, but I'm like, oh no, I'm not
Yeah.
gonna give him the satisfaction.
Yeah. But it's so crazy to think that, the perceptions. I always say this and like, you're 21 years old. Can you imagine like I was 21 years old when I taught you for the first time.
It's great.
21 or 22. And I always say this to like when I see y'all. I just want you to imagine you and your body as a 21-year-old running 33 kids, 32 kids in a class. And it's crazy to think, like I kind of laugh thinking about all of you because when you're like, oh, I'm 21, I'm 22, and I was like, yeah, I was like your teacher in fifth grade. Well, you were that age. So it's so crazy. And I always say to myself, like, I always give myself grace because I know that in the beginning I was really mean. But I already said this in previous episodes. They told us not to smile till December. Not anyone in BP, but like a lot of other first year teachers were saying not to smile. So that is such a great memory to have. Like, I'm glad that like you had like a different perspective of it because I was surprised everybody said I was nice. And I was like, that is not how I felt
No.
when I was doing it. So I loved that you have that perception. Do you have anything else you want to add to that?
Um, Not necessarily. I feel like this like ties into like one of the memories I
Yeah.
have of middle school.
Yeah.
So I always had like this image of you like always like kind of always on my tail,
Mhm.
probably always very like setting the tone all the time. There was this one time we had this discussion seminar with Miss Castle
Yeah.
about chocolate milk.
Yes.
And I don't know what this student, like one student particularly participated, and he doesn't really participate as much or as I remember. And he said something, I really don't remember what he said. I wish I remembered. He said something, and that made you laugh. That made you la like that kind of like broke the ice. I'm like, oh, so like he does have a soft spot because
Mhm.
you like your real laugh came out, and I was like, this cannot be the same teacher that always like kind of scolds us or always tells us to get
Yeah.
our lives together. So like that exact moment, I'm just like that like your laugh. I was like, what? That's a very middle school memory for me.
Yes, I love that. And just for context for everybody, when they were in fifth grade, there was an argumentative essay project that we were doing where we pretended to take away the chocolate milk. And they had to write an argumentative essay with like factual evidence pieces, percentages to convince us to keep the chocolate milk, which by the way was everyone's favorite when the chocolate milk was out there for lunch. And so I don't remember what he said either. But I'm glad that like that small moment was like something that stuck out because I think after the first year I had y'all, my hope was like I think and I felt like the more I had you all the way to eighth grade, all of you just started to know me as a human being, like as a person. And then
Yes.
I think what's also cool is that because I got to know you high school and college as into an adult, I think you guys got to know me even more as a human being. I'm not perfect. I'm not because obviously from teacher and student perspectives, you always are like, oh, they're so professional, like all those things. And I'm so glad that you got to see that side of me. And I love that moment stood out to you. What was another moment that stood out to you in middle school?
I feel that since that was like my fifth grade moment, and that was like the year we got to know each other,
Hmm.
I feel the eighth grade when it was like our last year before high school,
Yeah.
before we graduated, the parade when you were nominated for Teacher of the Year, that was
Hmm.
like big. And the reason why it like just stuck out to me is because you deserved it. You really, really
Aw.
deserved it because I felt development throughout the year because
Yeah.
throughout the years because as I mentioned before, I was a very average C student, and I feel that you in particular were one of the few teachers that actually pushed those average students into become much more and
Hmm.
like to reach their potential. So I feel that I was celebrating a nomination that was very well deserved.
Mm,
And it was nice because the whole school also felt it.
yeah. Okay. So when I saw that you put that on the notes, I had forgot about it. I mean, I hadn't
Mm.
thought about it as a moment. I actually didn't even name it as a moment, or maybe I did in the first episode, but I was surprised by that moment because I had gotten the nomination. You were in, were you
I was
Notre,
in your homeroom.
you were in Notre Dame that year, right? When it was because you were in eighth grade, I wasn't in your homeroom. Like when you were in
Yeah.
eighth grade, you were in the other two classes. Like I had the seventh graders at the time, but I think you were in the Notre Dame room, right?
Oh,
Oh wait, that's so crazy. I
no,
just got it right now. You were in the Notre Dame homeroom, weren't you? Or were you IU?
I was in the ND homeroom for seventh grade.
Oh no, in seventh grade, you were with Espinosa. No, that's not true. Seventh
Oh,
grade,
that's
you were with me. I remember it. Seventh grade, you were with me. I had all of my originals back in seventh grade, most of you.
okay.
And then in eighth grade,
Oh,
me and
yes,
Espinosa,
yes,
we wanted y'all, but
yes.
you guys had to have Notre Dame or IU. And I
That is
think,
so crazy because when you said Notre Dame, I thought like, when did you got nominated
yeah,
when I
yeah, yeah.
was in college?
No, 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 no. You were Notre Dame as in the eighth grade homeroom.
Yes, yes,
And
yes,
okay, now that you brought this up, I remember all of you knew ahead of time that that parade was going to happen. I had no idea that that parade was going
yes.
to
That
happen.
is true. That
And
is true.
Paulina, who will come in hopefully at one point, um, she was looking at the clock. And I said, don't look at the clock. Like, I'm gonna, like, whatever. But she was looking at the clock because she was excited that the parade was gonna happen in 5 minutes. And so it's funny because I remember Mr. Corey took me away, and then all of you went
Hmm.
downstairs, and then I came downstairs. I have the picture, and hopefully I can put it up in the podcast. Um, the picture when you all were surrounding me, and then
Yes.
there's other pictures where I was walking and you were all behind me. And I will say, I'm so glad you brought that moment up as like a memory for you because I sometimes I don't celebrate myself. I loved that moment because I only got better as a teacher because of your class. Like I say this all
Oh.
the time, and I know this is really sappy and all this other stuff, but your home, like your class, class of 2017, um, and the families and the community. I just loved you guys so much that I've always wanted to be my best. I've always wanted to be there. There was never a time where I was like, oh, I need to take a day off because I hate it or like I was tired. I always wanted to be present. Um, I was absent a couple times in the later parts because of my sickness and all this other stuff, but um that that moment was not just about me. I felt like it was a celebration of all of us because I felt like we were able to do things differently because we just kept pushing the bar for each other. I
Yes.
loved it. And so I'm so happy you brought that. That one's so good. A good one. Do you have any other ones?
I feel like that's like the main ones I just keep remembering of middle school. I feel like the other one that also brings me like a bit of a smile would be like the college fair we had
Was that fifth grade?
because I think
Yeah, I
so.
think it
I
was
think
fifth
it
grade.
was fifth grade because the reason why it's like now that I look back at it, it was a bit silly at the end because I just remember so many like pairs or groups like wasting so much paper for vouchers that people were gonna throw out
Right, right,
anyways.
right, right.
And it was, I don't know, I just like just thinking about it because I remember I forgot who was my partner, but I remember we were like stressing, like, okay, what else should we put? Like
Right.
we already put like the how much it costs, like the different activities and whatnot, and their mascot. And I remember just printing out like this because I remember I was assigned the University of Oregon
Oh, I think
Ducks.
I remember. Yes. Okay.
And I remember just printing out a big duck, like the big O with the duck in it.
Yes.
It was, I don't know, I think it was like silly of fifth graders just stressing over this big assignment.
Yeah. And it was such a big, I think every
It was
grade.
a big deal,
Yeah, it
yeah.
was a big deal. You were in the gym, um,
Hmm.
all that stuff. So like, yeah, that's so funny because that also reminds me, and I talked about this in a previous episode with Ileana, the 12 to 15 page research paper that y'all had to do in sixth grade, that was also a lot of paper. A lot of like, I have a picture of all of you hovering over my printer, trying to get your research paper printed at 8 a.m. the day it was due. Like everybody was hovering over my printer. We did waste a lot of paper. I'm not gonna lie about that. I know we have different technology pieces now, but I love paper. I will write on it, and things like that. So, oh, I will say I loved your memories because they're different. They're
Okay.
different. A lot of people said similar memories, and that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying that it's a bad thing. It's just that yours is different. Like, I'm so glad that you brought those pieces. Now, we're also going to move into the lessons you learned. So talk about some of the lessons you learned in middle school and some of the stories that went behind those lessons.
Yeah. I guess this is like the third time I mentioned this, but um, I guess the biggest lesson, or one of the biggest lessons I learned from middle school, and I still like reflect on to this day, would be don't think it won't happen to you. And I know that sounds like, oh, like very, very suspenseful or very,
Mm.
very dark.
Yeah,
But I think of it in the way that don't think it won't happen to you in the way of like, don't think that success won't happen to you. Like it will happen to you. Especially because like I mentioned before, I was like a very C average student.
mm,
I basically didn't um I wasn't locking in as I should have back when I was a
that's
kid.
okay. You're young.
Yeah. Um, but I feel that once I was in your homeroom and another uh another teacher's homeroom, I feel that you guys really invested your time on trying to push me and the
Mhm.
other average students
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
I do remember moments where I'm like, oh, like that makes sense or like it clicked. And now I feel that in certain situations I just like think outside the box,
Right,
which was like I feel like that was like the main goal where don't like don't try to interpret the text or the subject on what it says, if
right,
not
right.
it what are like the outside symbolisms, the themes outside of it. What's the bigger picture?
Yeah.
I feel that and that comes like through the memories of like the discussion seminars, the essays, um the debates. I do remember the debate between girls versus boys for
Yeah.
Lord of the Flies.
Mhm.
I remember how you like kept telling us like you gotta mature through the context of what we were reading through night. I remember
Mhm.
like don't laugh at this or like um it was like a lot of small moments for me that um just becomes one big memory.
Yeah.
And
I want to comment on that because I am I'm surprised that I know we talked about this briefly, but I'm surprised you called yourself average in the sense of um in content. I don't like to do comparisons around like students and things like that, but I can tell you that from the beginning, I knew you were scrappy, gritty, hardworking. Like that was something that was a trait that was very evident from you. When you moved on to sixth grade, Miss Martinez and Miss Shannon, all three of us, and Mr. V, when we had like meetings, we would always talk about how hardworking you were. Like I'm telling you this as
wow.
like we noticed it. We knew. That was something a trait for you that I felt like was there always is that you tried hard, you wanted to get better. And for me like honor roll whatever, but like the trait the characteristic of hard work and like you really wanted it was very evident. Like we knew you were a go-getter. Now, when you said that one day it clicked, I love that you say that because in seventh grade to me, all of a sudden, Like the essays were better. I could say that from personal experience. Like even the way you were like, it's so great to hear you talk about it because in seventh grade, your analysis was better. And I have a video. You probably don't remember this project when we did Julius Caesar, the Shakespeare play. Everyone had to pick a character and do a speech. Like we were having a fake election, and everyone had to use ethos and logos to convince people to for their um vote for their character. And I definitively remember that yours was the best speech. Like you read it. You were reading the speech. And okay, other people were funny. Other people were like whatever, but in terms of content, like use logos, use pathos, use ethos, you and your team had the best one. And I remember this because Mr. Corey was in the room too, and we talked about how your speech had all of the elements in it. And so I don't know. I mean, obviously these are all like there's so many different memories. I'm very good at like memory uptake, and I also have a bunch of videos and pictures from back then, but there's a speech you did in that assignment that like encapsulates everything you said because it was in seventh grade. Um, and so
I
that's
really don't remember this
I know.
project. I'm trying to remember, like, what?
Yeah, there's so many different projects. I remember them because I implement them year after year, and I remember the good one, like the ones that were like, oh, this is a good example. Um, I don't remember. Do you remember the mock trial?
I did mostly because um I was like I for I was with one of like the students that were like they were like hardcore into
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
their argument,
yeah,
I
yeah,
was like,
yeah,
you
yeah.
could be a really great lawyer one day. I
Yeah,
was like, what?
yeah.
Yes, I do remember the mock trial.
Yeah, so there's like a lot of different things that I saw that like, people were doing. And what I will say is that when you talk about your growth arc and how much you've changed, like you were shy in the beginning and then it got like you got more confident in your realm. So I loved hearing it back because it just shows how self-aware you are of like your growth and how much you've grown, and that's incredible. Do you have anything else to say about that, or do you want to move on? You can move on to the next one if you want.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That was just one lesson. Yes,
Yeah.
we can move into the second one. Yeah. And I guess I think we mentioned it pieces, like key pieces here and there, but another lesson I've learned, and I think I reflect this a lot with my parents, development is key. You
Mm,
know, I realize, like, I feel that sometimes, I don't know, when I was younger, I thought like some certain people had like gifts of like learning the material just like that, and probably at a very advanced level. But I feel that over the time in middle school, I learned that you just have to put in the work
hmm.
to fully to be part, to like to understand, to meet your full potential. And it just takes time and development. And
Yeah.
that's another thing I've learned like through my time, like in college as well. Like, oh, development is key. It takes time, but you just need to put in the work.
Yeah. I will. I love that because even in my 30s, I'm learning a lot of things. Like I'm not where I want to be in my life. I'm not where I want. Um, I feel like sometimes I move forward and move back, but it's so interesting to see how like there's different lessons in life that you take with you. And there are development pieces. Like I feel like all of you probably thought I was very charismatic slash like extroverted.
Yes.
I've considered myself introverted for so long. It's only been the last 3 years that I felt like and you've probably seen this on Instagram. I do more speeches, I do more like things in front of people, whereas like I felt like the only way that I could be myself was in the classroom. But if you saw me outside in real life, like at during that time, 21 to 28, if you were a fly on the wall, At any social event, I was like hiding a lot. I didn't like to talk a lot. I didn't like to do that stuff. I felt like I wasn't myself in front of you all. Um, but now not unfortunately, fortunately, I feel like I'm a little bit of a social butterfly. So that there's a lot of growth. There's a lot of growth in that. And so I love that you say that. I know you also talk a little bit about advanced text levels that helped you think outside the box. Do you want to like talk a little bit about some of the examples around that?
I feel I always think of a walk, um, a long walk to water. I
Yeah,
think that's the name. Yeah.
yeah, it's sixth grade. Yep.
Um, yes. But I feel like the first one, like the very first time where I'm like, oh, I need to start thinking outside the box, not in the box or not within the guidelines of the box. There
Mm,
was this one time we were talking about commercials. I think it was like about logos, pathos,
yep.
ethos,
Yep.
but and I remember you were really like, come on guys, like why would Nike hire Michael Jordan to be like their representative for this? And we're like, oh well, like he plays basketball, and like that's pretty straightforward. Like, yeah, like he's a great basketball player, like why not?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, what's the bigger meaning? And I think it was Ashanti
Mm,
that mentioned that like had the perfect answer. She said that the reason why Nike would contract or hire Michael Jordan to be like their like mascot basically is because he's awesome, because
mm,
people like him.
mm.
And when she said that and you're like, that's exactly what I was looking for. I feel like the whole classroom we were like,
Yeah.
oh, like okay, like it's more of like the emotion part and not just the qualities
Yes.
of the person.
Yeah, and first of all, you have a really good memory. Very good memory. Because like you're picking up on all the small moments. Like you're
Yes.
not thinking about which is again, like it's like that part of your storyline about like you're really like thinking about the deeper concept of things, but like you're picking up the smaller pieces that I think are really key. And then even when you were talking about a long walk to water. I think that might have been the first text where I feel like, no, that's not true, because Lord of the Flies was also like that too, where we had to like think about society.
Yes.
And then I wanted all the books to be social justice related so that you're thinking about like, okay, what's happening outside in the world and what can you do to fix, like not even fix it, how can you help and impact all
Hmm.
of those things? And actually like watching you do the things in high school and college, like, I mean, I feel like you internalize those lessons really well.
Yeah. Yes. I feel that those small moments really, for me, it gave me more of an impact than the bigger projects. I honestly don't remember the Julius Caesar. I do
Mm,
remember like reading about it
yeah.
because all I remember was like et tu Brute.
Yes. That's all you needed to know. Just kidding. Yes, we had that, and then that was the performance task project. It was like we're doing a fake election. Everyone had to pick a character. You worked in groups, and then
Mhm.
um, you had to do a speech as if you were like a campaign manager.
Mhm.
But yeah, I'll send it to you. I'll send you the clip,
Okay.
so that you have it later. Um,
Okay.
so then you graduate in 2017 and then you move on to high school, which I have to say this, like you were so scrappy in the high school application process. Like you were
Meaning
applying
what?
for scholarships. You were
Oh
like you
yes.
were going for it. Um and you were on top of it. I can't say that for everybody. Like, and that's again, it's unfortunate because I feel like it's really a lot of pressure to put eighth graders and seventh graders into like this. Unfortunately, that was the climate of Chicago schools. Like, if you wanted to go to a selective enrollment and all those things, there was like application scholarships and all these things, and you applied for multiple of those things and ended up at a great place for you with a scholarship. And so like I thought that was pretty incredible. But tell me a little bit about some of the lessons you learned in high school.
Oh man. So. a little, okay, so a bit of context. So during like sixth grade and seventh grade, we would be in your after school
Yep.
act or after school sessions.
Yeah.
And I would remember how you would be so upset to certain eighth graders at the time because they were applying to high schools very last minute,
Hmm.
or they were like passing the deadlines, and you were just so upset.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had that fear. I'm like, I don't want him to be upset with me.
Yeah.
Because I already like from the start, he's very strict, so I can't be one of those students. So that's why I was like very like, okay, like let me take the test for the selective enrollment this
Mhm.
Saturday, and then let me take the private school test the following weekend.
Yeah.
So I guess like from seeing other people's experiences, I was like, oh no, I don't want to be that one. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah.
And so I ended up at a all-girls school up in the north side of the city.
Yep.
I've heard of the school, it's called Josephine Academy.
Mhm.
I've heard of that school from a mutual friend, or from a not from a friend at my local church. And I thought it was like a nice fit. I shadowed when I went to like the shadow days, um it felt very liberating, like
Yep.
they know like they were trusting you with the work. You had all this like freedom, but at the same time you had to like learn how to manage your time. And I was like, oh, okay. And then when I shadowed like Crystal Ray, I
Mhm.
don't know, my experience was like, I
Yeah.
don't know if I don't think this is the right fit. And when I found out that I got a scholarship, I was like, I have to go. Like it's one
Yeah.
of those opportunities, and especially because I didn't got in any of the selective
Yeah.
enrollment
Mhm.
schools. I was considering going to Phoenix
Yes.
Academy,
I remember
and
that.
I remember, and you told me like, nah, you're already disciplined.
Yeah.
You should go to Josephina.
Yeah.
And so that's how I ended up there. And I feel like one of the two biggest lessons I've learned was one, always be appreciative of where you are in life.
Hmm.
Because I was like there like I feel like freshman through junior year, or at least the first 2 years, I was feeling so much FOMO because I
Hmm.
was at an all-girls school, and I felt like I was missing out like those key moments, like going to homecoming with like your friends, but all of my friends were all girls, and I was
Right.
like, I don't know, like this is
Yeah.
like this is not like the typical high school experience you would get. So I would sometimes be very whiny and I would complain a lot. I was like, man. And I was this close transferring to a noble school
Yeah.
or
Yeah. Yeah.
to a high school nearby, near home. But I stuck to it, especially because I joined sports and that's how I got along more with the girls there. And eventually I loved the place. And it really has helped me academically now that I think about it. And I think another lesson would be spending time, like my leisure time, developing new hobbies or skills. And I feel like I'm so glad I like joined like sports like volleyball and what was the other sport? It was like another, or it was like some
Basketball.
sort of club.
Oh, that was in middle
Uh,
school.
Middle
Sorry.
school. That was middle
Yeah.
school. I think I tried out for basketball
Hmm.
or during like their open gyms, and I feel like it really helped me have like learn how to have a life outside academics, like
Hmm.
developing more hobbies and skills that, can bring more meaning to life,
Yeah.
Um, and I feel that that really helped a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and it helped me become more appreciative of where I am, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I was gonna, th both lessons are amazing, like to think through high school. I relate to the FOMO because I also went to an all boys high school.
Hmm.
All my friends went to different high schools, and I wanted to go where they went, but I ended up going to this all boys school, and I didn't show up to anything. Like I didn't, I was like the only, I was also, I was not, I was nerdy, but I was also just, like I said, I was introverted. So I actually
Mhm.
really hated being there. No offense to that high school. Like I really struggled there. I think socially, academically, I'm always a hard worker. So like whatever. But socially, like I felt like I never ate lunch in the cafeteria. I've always hid in the library. I was like that kid.
Oh.
And I struggled a lot. And a lot of the kids, there was a lot of kids who made fun of me. And also like because I come from a different, like a lot of the privileged kids, we would all take the
Mhm.
train down, and the closer you were to the Bronx is like there, if you sat on the train and then did a observation of what happens in the train as you go north. That's it changes as we got closer, and I got made fun of a lot for that. I was also one of the very few kids from my city who went to this high school. So I struggled a lot. Didn't go to prom. Did you go to prom?
We didn't have a prom
Oh, you didn't have a prom. I didn't have, we had,
because of COVID.
oh, I forgot. I totally forgot you were the COVID kids. Oh
Yes.
no. Yeah, well, I didn't go to prom either. So uh I skipped it. Didn't go to prom, never went to a dance. Like it was a lot. And yeah, it's a lot for me personally because like I identified as queer at the time as well. And so there was just like a lot of different things going on. So that was interesting. Love that second one, the hobbies and talents, because a lot of kids, like especially people who are overachievers, forget that there's a life
Yeah.
outside of the work. I I always had tennis. Tennis is my I'm a
Mm.
pretty good tennis player. I still do tennis now, and actually a new phrase for me is if you don't see me doing tennis, it means that I'm crashing out. Um, because when I was your teacher, I didn't play tennis for 10 like 7 years. Like I never because I was always working.
Yes. Yeah.
But to your point, to be more well-rounded, to be more social, to help you stay in shape, like I should have been playing tennis all the way through, but I didn't. I started playing tennis again 30, 31, 32. So I took it on later, but I also know when you are a hard worker and overachiever, you need to have other hobbies. You need to do other
Yes.
things because like there needs to be a balance, you know? And so that's really great and important. Now, after high school, you go to the University of Notre Dame. Amazing, great. And I know that you've had some difficult experiences there as well in terms of the transition. Do you want to talk a little bit about your college experience?
Oh man. So yeah. Um, where man, it's like so many it's like small lessons, but I feel like the biggest one would be because middle school I was surrounded by POC, like my
Mm,
people. I see a lot of my people.
yeah.
And then high school, it wasn't one of like the it wasn't like a very privileged school.
Mhm.
It was like at a very privileged area,
Yeah.
but it was mostly like POC, you know?
Right.
So I didn't felt that shift until college, where first of all, there are guys in my in my classrooms. I'm like, what are you doing here?
Right.
And then second of all, a lot of them like are so prepared. I'm like it's like a different type of privilege of like having this development early on and continuously, you know?
Hmm.
And I feel like I felt that I remember this freshman year, my econ class,
Yep.
where I stayed behind because I was like, what, I it wasn't clicking. And I went up to the professor and he was talking to a different student. And I asked him my question. The student answered my question. And
Mm,
I was like, it just like hit reality where, I wasn't, like this is like the real deal. I
yeah.
was like, this is not Chicago or this is not Bratton Park anymore or Wicker
Mhm.
Park anymore.
Yeah.
So that was like a big lesson. I'm like, I need to put in double time for this. And also like the culture was also very different. but because of that, I know sports now.
Mm.
I understand sports now. So
Yes, because I know that y'all had great homecomings. I like the amazing like sporting events because I think isn't Notre Dame like one of those top schools with like the sports that they
yes, yes.
yeah. Um it's it's so like so I when I started at Penn, I had the same experience. I crashed out so hard that first year. Because I just didn't do biology and chemistry the same way that I guess the other students who were there had it. Also, it's not that I wasn't a hard worker. I just it's different. It's such a different environment, and I love like how you talk a little bit about the privilege aspect of things as well. I went to my high school. So my middle school and elementary experiences again predominantly black and brown students. When I went to high school, there was very few black and brown students, very few kids of color, predominantly white. And so I was already prepared I think going
Mm.
into Penn for that culture or that way of like all the privileged kids and all this stuff. And I felt like when I got into Penn, I felt I had a similar experience, but it did make me work a little harder. Like I felt like, and I don't know how you felt in Notre Dame, but there was a good period of time where I was like, oh, I don't belong here. Like this is not, I'm not good enough. I'm not good enough. And I had to like work on that mindset for 4 years in a row where I was like, no. I actually belong here. Like I deserve to be here, just like everybody else deserves to be here. So, did you have a similar experience starting out at Notre Dame like that?
Oh man, I really remember the time where I'm like, I don't know. I feel like I'm taking someone's spot because it was after the first home game, like football game.
Yeah,
Mind you, I came from like a very small school, so
yeah,
we never had like any big events.
right.
Um, and at the time, I was a freshman. There was this girl who was like an actress in a Netflix show who was a
Oh,
junior at the time there. And I bumped into her. I'm like, oh my gosh, like can we take a picture? And we took a picture. And I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I saw her. And then I remember going back to my dorm and I'm like, I just like I it's it because first of all, it was a very hot day
yep.
and I just like cooled down like physically and mentally. And that's when I had like a bit of a crash out that, people around me, come from very prepared families, come
Mm,
from very they come they come from very high expectations.
right.
And I was like, man, like I could barely understand econ. Like what? And this is my first year. I'm like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
So I did have a big crash out, and for freshman year, for a long time, I would like stay in on the week during the weekends, mostly because Notre Dame is not a party school at all. So when there are parties or social events going on, in my opinion, they're not the best or the most fun,
Mm,
at like compared to like state schools.
yeah.
So for the longest, I do remember freshman year, I would be like in my dorm, kind of like sleeping away
Yeah.
like reality.
Okay, Miriam, we had the same
Yeah.
experience. Like
Yeah.
I slept a lot I stayed in a lot freshman year.
Hmm.
I think the first time that I actually like tried to explore. I mean, I did go to a couple parties freshman year just because everybody made me. But
Hmm.
I think junior year was the time where I was like, okay, I should stop being in the library 24/7 because it's not working anyway. I was like, why am I'm like in the library, like barely passing. Like, I don't need to be
Amazing.
like out here 24/7 getting no sleep and then I get a C. So and the grades didn't matter anyway. But it's funny because it it doesn't it's weird because it doesn't get better when you get older for some reason. I still sometimes still working on the confidence. I just finished my doctorate last year.
Yes,
I
yes.
felt the same thing in my doctorate program. Oh, I'm not enough. I'm not as good as everyone here. And also, Miriam, I was like the only teacher. Me and one of my friends, Sybil. and Megan. There were three of us who were teachers. Everybody else in the program, superintendent, principal, chief academic this, chief that. And so like I felt not like I didn't feel like I belonged there. But hey, I finished it. I did really well. I'm now Dr. Zarate, so like it doesn't matter. Exactly. So I'm still working on the confidence stuff too. So I love that you brought that up. So wow, that I love your reflections on the past. Those are really good. Uh, tell us a little bit now about your present. So what are you doing now and what are you passionate about?
I finally have a job. Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yes.
Yeah, so that was like another stressor I had
Mm,
for senior year because I was like, should I do a master's or should I like go straight to work and get my CPA license during my test? So a bit of a context, CPA stands for Certified Public Accountant.
hmm.
So for accounting majors, in order to like escalate the corporate ladder,
Yeah.
having a bachelor's degree in accounting is not enough,
Yeah.
sadly.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's kind of a very doable career. Like
Yeah.
once you understand it, anyone can do it
Right.
essentially. Um, but with the CPA license, it basically gives you the certification of like, okay, this is like the pro. If she signs this financial document, that means it is approved.
Mm,
It is like all correct because she proved it.
right.
And it helps you like escalate the ladder much more quicker, and you kind of have access to any job anywhere you
Right.
go. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but it's a long process.
Yeah. Did you have to do a lot of
So
math classes for that?
no, so once you have your BS in accounting,
Yeah.
you basically took like all the essential accounting courses
Okay.
needed.
Okay.
You just the only like tedious part would be wherever you get your license, wherever you get your license, like the state, like so I'm gonna get it in the state of Illinois. You have to fulfill 150 credits.
Oh,
So I graduated with 130, so I
okay.
need to fill in that gap.
Got it.
So sometimes accounting students would do a master's
Right.
to
Oh,
fulfill those.
I see what you're
Yes.
saying. Yeah. 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 Okay.
But once you have like the but once you have like the essentials, like the essential courses, you can basically take any other like course, like
Right.
a cooking class or a calc class,
Yeah.
anything um to fulfill to fulfill the credit gaps. And once you have the 150, you can start studying for one of the four parts of the exam. So it's a long process,
Yeah.
but I feel like it's worth it.
Right.
So yeah, so I applied for a master's, didn't get in. It's fine. I saved myself up from a lot of debt. Um,
That's right.
yeah, and it was a hard like pill to swallow because I was like, man, like the imposter syndrome kicked in. I'm like, am I not good enough for a master's?
Yeah.
But then I realized like, no, like I feel like I'll be better off without it.
Hmm.
Um, and from there I just like kept applying for jobs.
Yeah.
Essentially like from like entry level accounting positions,
Right.
and I'm so thankfully I got into Jenner and Block, which is mid like a mid-size um law firm in the
Yeah.
Midwest.
Yeah.
And yeah, so far I've been enjoying my time, probably because I'm still in the honeymoon phase,
Yeah.
in the training phase, but they've already warned me when are like the busy and hectic times, but the company seems by far like it seems like they take care of their employees. So
Yeah.
I really yes, so hopefully I stay there for a good while.
Yeah, I'm really happy that you it's really hard to get a job right out of college like nowadays with the economy and all that stuff, but like it was great that you got that job and you get to do the downtown Chicago experience and stuff. So that's so great. Outside of your career, do you have any other passions or hobbies or things that you're doing right now that to just, keep your cup overflowing or your cup.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
Um, so during my time in college, I hated running. I hated running. I despise people that run. But not but in junior year I joined the boxing club
Oh,
and we had
wow.
yes, mostly because after New York I gained a lot of weight
Mhm.
and
Of
emotionally
course, New York.
yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I think I got my freshman 15 again
Yeah.
during that time. So I joined the boxing club starting junior year, and every Friday we had to run. And so it became like a love-hate relationship
Yeah.
until it became a love relationship. So now I'm into running.
Yeah.
Um yeah, so by far the most I've run would be like 10K, 10
Oh,
kilometers.
wow.
Yeah.
Without stopping?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I'm continuing to invest some time with that. Obviously, I haven't really done much, especially since I got sick and
Yep.
got rest um from all the graduation events.
Yeah.
But I also enjoy trying out new coffee shops. It's such like a nice,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's like such a vibe.
It is a vibe. It is a
Yeah.
vibe.
Hmm.
Do you try new coffee shops in Chicago? Like, do you have any favorite ones in Chicago?
There's some like near me. There's one in back of the arts that I enjoyed called El Grano, I think.
I
Or
feel like I know about this one. Yeah.
yes, yes,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Those are really good. I think, well, not downtown Chicago, but West Loop will have a bunch of coffee shops
yes,
there. That's where
yeah.
I did a lot of my work. I would like take the train up to the West Loop and do some stuff there. Now, I have to say, like, I was running last year. Like, I started running,
Oh,
which I think is like LOL for me. But I wanted to work up to a 5K. Like, that was my goal. I got up to two
mm.
miles without stopping
Oh wow,
last
you're
year.
almost there. You're
I
really
know.
almost there.
I'm 1 more mile away,
You're
but
almost there.
sadly, Miriam, I always get injured. So I would
Oh,
always get tendonitis. So now I actually have a bad knee. This is what happens when you get old. Also, I'm
oh.
a little bit heavier, so like I guess like the pressure on my knees and my ankles are bad. But every time I would do 1 mile, great. The when I pushed it up to 2 miles, immediately after the 2 mile run, the next day, it's like my foot is like swollen. Like it's so I stopped. For now, I'm just walking and playing tennis. I'm actually trying to slow my roll with running because I need to release some stress and some weight first, and then I'll try it again. I have a goal. I know people who are listening to this are like, WTF. I want to, I really do want to do the Chicago Marathon one day.
Me too. We
I
should do
want
it
to,
together.
we should do it together. You know what? Now I'm gonna run again so that we could do the Chicago Marathon together. I would love to do that. I will only do
That's
Chicago. I
beautiful.
will not do any other city. Maybe New York because I live here, but I want to do the Chicago one so bad. Because I actually lived on the route 1 year. Yes, I
Oh,
lived on one of the routes. And so I would
oh.
see it and I was like, oh, maybe one day, but like I'm always a bigger guy, but we'll see what happens. I'll work hard on it now that you said that maybe we should do it together. I will work hard on it now. I'm gonna write it down.
Yoga helps. Yoga helps a
Okay.
lot.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay. Before we get to the last part, which is your future, you have two questions to ask me. You can start with your first question.
Yes. So when you were starting your teaching career, I think you might have answered this earlier on, but you can
Mm.
go more into detail. What is something you would have changed, what, or added on, or invested more time into when, like coming out of college and starting to teach a bunch of um 10-year-olds? I what do you think you would have done differently?
Yeah.
Or yeah.
So I give this advice. This advice is for you, and this advice is for Hector because I talk to Hector a lot. This is advice for anyone who's starting their working adult life. Um, Life is not just about work. life is not just about, I focused way too much. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to like do well for y'all, but I did not take care of myself at that time. Y'all have no idea how sick I got during those years. Like it was bad. I was at the I mean I joke about it, but like I was in the emergency room every winter break, spring break, and end of the year. Three times, two to
Oh
three
my
times a year.
God.
Because you know, like you how you crashed, like you have a crash out now with your voice. And
Yes.
I was that five times worse. I had 1 year I thought I had a stroke. They thought I had a stroke. 1 year I was in the hospital for 4 days. I was IV'd up. This was your sixth grade year. I was in Elmhurst Hospital for 4 days during spring break. I got out on Easter Sunday. I remember because I
No.
went to my cousin's house and I couldn't eat anything. Um, that was bad. So I think one thing I would change is I'd play tennis. I'd hang out with friends more. Because I had friends in Chicago and they will all say, you didn't want to come out. You didn't want to like do all this stuff. And I didn't. I was so focused on, I was lesson planning late. I was reading a lot of books and it was like, Andre, please have some fun. Like, go out there. I didn't date at all. Like the entire time, everybody was like, "Do you have a girlfriend? Do you have the blah blah blah?" Sarati was not dating at all. I didn't start dating again until my 30s. So it's really bad. Like, and so that's why I say to all of you, and what I would change is like, I love how you said this, like, sports and meeting people. And so that's what I would change. Is like, I wish I had a little bit more balance in my life. And I offer that to you as you go in through your 20s. I offer that to the other your peers as you go into your 20s. Like, have fun. It's like it's really there's so much shit happening in the world right now, you know?
Oh
Like,
man.
yeah, there's so
Man.
much. Might as
Man.
well, like do your job well, do everything well. Do a good job so that you have the financial, because in America it's capitalistic. So do well to get what you need and have fun. Like, but you traveled. You went to
Well,
Brazil
yes, I
last
did.
year. I
Yes, I
was
did.
I was Francisco is going to be at the later part of the episode, but he went to Europe, you went to
Mhm.
Brazil, Montalvo went to Japan, Ileana went to Ireland. Ashanti I just saw went to Puerto Rico or the Dominican Republic, I don't remember. Zarati hasn't left the country. So what am I doing? I don't know. But you guys are inspiring me. Like I'm just like you guys are living.
We have the go-to spots for you now once you
Yes.
visit those countries.
Yes. Now I will ask all of you, like, where should I go? Where should I go? But I'm proud of y'all. You're living life. That's what it is. So you just live life. And so that's what I would do. What's your second?
First of all, my Shayla, oh my gosh, I didn't know you were going through so
I was
much.
going through a lot. Yeah.
Oh
I was
my
going through a lot.
gosh.
And that's why I have Lucas. The Montalvo,
Oh yes,
the
yes.
Montalvo family gave me Lucas in your seventh grade year. And
Mhm.
I know they say that like, maybe Zarati would have one. I needed that. I needed a little dog in my life. Like I was going through a lot. But it's so great to like share that experience with you now. Obviously, I'm not going to tell you at 11 years old, like, my life's a mess, but like, I love talking to y'all now because I really do enjoy telling you, like, I was a mess in my 20s. Like, it was bad. Like, it was bad. So, um, all of that stuff and more for all of you. All right, what's
Hopefully, no more ER trips.
no more.
No
I
more.
actually haven't been to the ER since this is gonna sound funny. I haven't been to the ER since I quit teaching.
It's not funny.
It is not funny.
It's not funny.
2021 was the last time I was in a classroom, maybe 2022, and I haven't had an emergency room visit since 2022.
Progress.
Progress, but also like I have to learn. I might go back to teaching this fall, actually. Like I might be a
Oh.
teacher again, but I know now that there has to be balance. There has to
Mhm.
be balance. So, update for you in the fall. If I'm doing well, I'll let y'all know if I could make an emergency room visit. I
No,
won't.
no,
I
no.
won't. No
No
emergency
more,
room
no
visit.
more.
No
No
more.
more. Okay.
All right, your second
Um,
question.
second question would be, okay, so like since we have been in contact for a very long time, what is something you believe I still struggle with?
Hmm. Okay, I'm gonna flip the question on you because I'm gonna ask you what you think it is, and I'll say this, and I'll say the reason why. I think you're doing a damn good job. I personally think you are. Like, at least from what I see and from our conversations, and actually most of you that I talk to, even the struggles that you're going through, you all have such wisdom. I know people are gonna be like, they're young, but y'all have some real wisdom about choosing for yourself, like choosing you. I didn't have that wisdom. Like when you talk about like your choices and your growth arc and the things that you're doing now, me, I felt like when I was 21, I was surviving, and you might feel that way too. I mean, I think that I don't know if you're struggling with this at all, but because we're both people of color, we're both children of immigrants. Um, I would say probably imposter syndrome. Like it's something that you're probably still figuring out and trying to like stand in your power, even though you were doing it well. Like you are doing it well. And so that's why I'm going to ask you the question, what do you think you're struggling with? And then I'll answer what I'm struggling with as a 34,
Okay.
almost 35-year-old. But what do you think you're struggling with?
I feel that I haven't, well, I feel like I continue to compare myself with other people's progress, and I shouldn't, and I know I shouldn't, and that's why I continue
Mm,
to struggle, but I still do it, or like I end up doing it.
yep.
Um, I feel like maybe it would be like the lack of, maybe lack of inspiration or lack of gratitude of where I am, or lack of grace for myself. But I feel like I continue to like compare myself with
Mm,
others. And I feel like that happened a lot, especially in college. Because I'm like, oh no, like, what do you mean? Like, they started a club and they are doing all X, Y, and Z. Like, I could barely finish my homework.
yeah.
Um, or I barely see my friends. Or
Hmm.
barely X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
So I feel like I continue to like compare myself, like compare my work and where I am
Hmm.
when I know I shouldn't, especially because I feel like it just wears off once like I tell like my parents what I'm doing and what I'm like currently working on, and they're like, "Oh, like we're so proud of you," or like,
Yeah.
"Oh," and
Yeah.
I feel like that wears like I feel like that's like a reminder of like, like I'm also doing this for them, and
Hmm.
I should be proud of how far I've come,
Yeah.
but I still compare myself, so
Yeah.
it's like a bad habit.
I do the same thing. I'm still there. I compare my journey with a lot of other people's journey. And the only way you realize, Miriam and everybody else who's listening, I feel like everybody can feel this too. Like when you stop, it is hard to not compare yourself. It's really hard. It's really hard to not compare yourself. I do it all the time. I've never been a principal. I've always wanted to be a principal. There's a lot of people in my circle, in the education circle, who got to be a principal. I never get picked to be principal, but I will be one day. Um, and I compare myself. It makes me feel like I'm not enough, I'm not good enough, or I'm not a leader. And so, um, the comparison is always hard. The comparison is always hard. I am starting to get into the phase. I think the other thing I struggle with is that I'm enough right now. I don't know.
Mm,
I don't know if you feel this way. I'm working on it. I'm not saying this as if like I embody this all the time, but I don't need a man. I don't need to be a principal. I don't need those things to be enough. All of those things are additions into my life. I'm working on that. Like I feel like I'm not where I'm supposed to be, and I do a lot of comparison. And that's just a vulnerable side of me because you brought that out as well. But we're all going through the same thing. I know I'm 10 years, more than 10 years older than you, but I promise we're going through the same things in different phases, you know? And that's the part that's why I love talking to you all. Because once everyone realizes that Zerati also messes up and is also like not confident and all this other stuff, like it makes us all look more human to each other. And so I appreciate that question. I know I flipped it on you to answer, but I don't think it's even my right to say what you struggle with because I admire your journey. Like
Oh,
I'm very
thank
proud of
you.
you. And like you've done great job. Okay. So the last part is the future. And we do this with everybody. I love hearing what everybody thinks. So let's start with what are your hopes and dreams for yourself?
Starting with the adult life, I hope to continue to have like a sustainable life where I can pay the bills and pay all the dues without having to like stress over meeting ends meet,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a very like cliche
Hmm.
goal for me, but I don't know. I feel like a very goal for me would be to continue to invest in my education, like not just like in accounting, but more like, especially what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
There's so much I don't know.
Yeah.
There's so much I don't know, and
Yeah.
especially like politically, I just know the surface level.
Yep.
And with what's going on, I have to find ways to like understand the history of what's going on, of
Yeah.
the root of the problem.
Right.
So that's like one of the things um I I aspired to like continue to do. Um and dreams, that's very hard to
Yeah.
say. It's very hard to say. Probably continue to have peace within myself because
Hmm.
I've learned that if your conscience is clean, or if you have like peace within yourself,
Hmm.
um you're a better human being individually and socially.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's a very like another cliche dream, but um yeah, I feel like right now I haven't really been ambitious with my dreams yet.
Hmm.
Yet.
I think it goes back to what you say. Like, I think being present in what you are
Hmm.
right now is good. And I think it's good. I think I focus way too much on the future, like me personally. But I talk about like hopes and dreams too, like because like I think sometimes we don't take the time to like think about like what are we hopeful about and what we're dreaming about.
Hmm.
But I think all of those things are great. Like I love how you said educating yourself politically and like
Yes.
understanding what's happening in the world. I will say like there's a lot of activists and activists. I consider myself as someone who does activist work on the ground with my communities and through education. But I don't know everything. Like I'm learning as I'm talking to people. Um I'm learning as I go, and I know that there's a lot of activism online that does a lot of shaming of people for not
Mm.
knowing, and I'm not in that business. I see people post it all the time where it's like you should da 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 da, and it's like not every like based on everything that's happening, like we're all learning and we should offer each other that grace. And sometimes people don't want to do that, and that's fine. Um, I work at operate at my pace. You should operate at your pace on how you do that. But I love education more than just like school. It's like
Yeah.
educating yourself around the world. Um, what are your hopes and dreams for your community?
I feel like especially what's going on in the present and what has happened in the past in my community, I just hope that in my community, to like they can live their lives and able to aspire their individual dreams without fear. I
Mm,
feel like I feel like it's like the minimum that they deserve. Because I mean, I'm like in the south side of the city, and like understand how things work a bit more, especially because I went to a much more privileged area up in the north side for high school,
Yeah.
and I could see like the different dynamics, the different worlds that's happening. And I just wish my community like can do their own thing without fear, whether that's like through gun violence, through in this case I like ice raids,
Right.
like it's like a lot of factors creating so much fear. So
Yep.
that's my inspiration for my community.
Love and agree with all of that. The last one is what are your hopes and dreams for the world?
Oh boy. Lots of healing.
Yeah.
There's man, it's it's very times have changed a lot, and our world leaders have changed a lot as well. Maybe I feel like it became more of a setback um with what's going on, and
Mhm.
it has created fear in a lot of different communities. It has created a lot of disattachment, a lot of arguing. It's just it's just a lot of what's how do you say it? Like there's just a lot of separation
Yep.
on all different levels.
Yep.
And I just feel like at some point the world needs to heal.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know what definition of healing would that embrace, but I feel like world leaders is a start.
Yeah.
But basically at some point have the world be united again. And
Yeah.
not pun intended like the US, but like like, probably less hate,
Yeah.
less fear.
Yeah. It's like
It sounds very, very hippie, but
yeah, no,
um,
it's what's necessary. Like I think
yes.
healing is like absolutely true. I feel like the humanity of everything, like no one's taking into consideration like we're all human and the interactions that we have and it's gonna take a long, 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 long time. Just based on history, but I was just saying to Tovar, we were having a conversation about this in the last episode, that when I had you in seventh and eighth grade, it was the start of that era. It was 2016, 2017.
Right,
And
right.
we had started that then, we're now like parallel. Like we're kind of like back where we were, even though like I can acknowledge that the last administration also made their own mistakes. Like every administration in America did their thing, like incorrect, like not even incorrectly, like there were things that were done in the world. And I think this next version of what our world is going to be, like you said, it's healing and it's the humanity aspect of it. So thank you for sharing that. Now the last part, I want you to think about little Miriam, fifth grade Miriam, sixth grade Miriam, and I want you to talk to yourself and like give yourself advice. What would you say to little Miriam? Um, what would you want to say to yourself if you got to talk to your younger self?
Yeah, okay. To younger Miriam, in order to feel that process of development, of growth, there will be mistakes along the way, but the key aspect of it would be learn how to forgive yourself
Mm,
and learn how to forgive the circumstances that brought those mistakes. Like there's a lot out of your control, and you might blame yourself for certain actions or for being in the wrong place at the wrong time, or maybe not putting in all of your 100%. um Sometimes you need to have that setback to have a big um to have a bigger, how do you call it? In order to like bounce back from the situation. And once, once you've forgiven yourself and once you reflect on what just happened and once like you feel like you've grown and become a better individual, you'll you'll notice how you'll be grateful for that setback in the beginning, even though it might be your worst moment at the time, but it's just a blimp in your pathway.
Yeah. Oh, Miriam, that is such a great thing, I think, lesson and things to say to your younger self and that they needed to hear. Um, Overall, like, I just think like you're so reflective. You've worked really hard. You're very self-aware. I'm very proud of you. Thank you so much for being a part of this podcast and sharing your story, sharing your lessons. I am just so amazed by all of the things that you're doing. You might come back for another season later just to talk about your things maybe in a couple years, but thank you again for sharing your experiences.
Thanks for the opportunity for for being part of your podcast.
Yes.